The Pentagon put out several years ago a video called the 2030 video, where they're predicting that by 2030, the country's going to break down. They're going to impose martial law. It's very well done. It's only about 5 minutes long, but it is scary. It's a training video. So the government's getting ready for, I think, economic and social breakdown. You have 175,000 federal agents now armed to the teeth in SWAT team gear, ready to go. So what is the implication of that? We're already under martial law at this point in time. I mean, we can pretend that we're not, but they're just waiting for supposedly people to get ready to resist. But unfortunately, as I see most Americans today, most Americans would rather sit on their butt and watch football games than think about freedom. The Patriot Act allows the government total power to come into your home while you're not there, download everything off your computer, the FBI, walk out, search your home without a search warrant. They have national security letters now, NSLs, which allow them to go to the bank, FBI agents or other federal agents, and ask for your records. And this is it. Under the national security letter, the bank, your business cannot tell you they've been there. If they do, they can get prosecuted. So they're afraid. The NDAA and other laws out there, the new HART agency that Trump's setting up, the Health Advanced Research Technology Agency, it's going to allow the government to read everything you're doing, your Fitbits, your apps, everything's going to be tracked to see what kind of emotions you are exhibiting so they can do pre-crime on you. The government does not tell you it's doing these things until they're already done. Then they start leaking out that they're in the process of doing these things. But I mean, with the Real ID Act now, we're all by 2020 we all have to have real IDs, which means we have passports now in our own country. We're walking around with passports. 585 billionaires are running everything and watching everything and controlling everything. So if you think, I hear people say, best thing you can do is vote. I'm saying, no, that's the illusion of participation.
Welcome back to Finance and Liberty and Reluctant Preppers. We have a returning guest. John Whitehead from the Rutherford Institute is a constitutional attorney. He has argued cases up to and including the Supreme Court. He's been a very active advocate for the rights of the civilians and for upholding the rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution. John, thanks for joining us again here on Finance and Liberty.
Thanks for having me on, sir.
We've had numerous questions submitted by our viewers, so many, in fact, we'll have to be very selective and narrowing it in. One question coming from Cajun Jameis asks, NDAA, should we be worried? What is the NDAA and why should we care about it?
Well, the National Defense Authorization Act is a law that's been reenacted by every president, including Trump. And what it allows the president to do, he can label anyone an extremist, essentially, have the military arrive, arrest you, put you in military detention. You cannot see your lawyer or your family. You're basically disappeared. And we've seen that happen with, when you look at some of the other cases, Chelsea Manning, you see that once that happens, they put them in isolation, much like Julian Assange is going through right now. But the thing is, you disappeared. Basically, all this started circling under the Obama administration. In 2009, under the Obama administration, 3 reports were issued. They were right-wing extremism, left-wing extremism, and Operation Vigilant Eagle. And they all fit into the NDAA. But let me explain them. Right-wing extremists were returning veterans, stuff like that. They were actually listed in this, people that the government has to watch. Under left-wing extremism, there were animal rights groups and stuff like that. They were all listed in here, and which is kind of crazy. You're reading about this stuff, you're going, who in the hell writes this stuff? Who thinks this up? You have to be really paranoid to do this. And so you got all these, anybody that says, I don't like the government, I oppose the government, I want to march, you go back to the greatest thinkers of all time, they would be on these lists. Then there was Operation Vigilant Eagle, which specifically focuses on returning veterans who are watched and tracked by the Department of Homeland Security. And to give you one case that we handled back in 2013, a young Marine named Brandon Robb, go onto our website. I mean, his story went viral and people are still talking about it. But what happened was he was he went on the internet and he attacked Obama, said Obama should be arrested for his executive orders and stuff like that. He was very, very vocal about those things and played some private Facebook games, one Mr. Illuminati. And what happened was we found out later that the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, they were all watching the games while he was watching, and they were tracking everything he was doing. So nothing's private. You have to understand that. He got through jogging on a Saturday morning. He didn't have a shirt on. He was at home typing. He had a home business. He heard some noises outside. He went to the front door, and there were the vans were driving up on his lawn. The government agents in the black coats, with the white shirts and the black ties were running toward his house, and they came up on his front porch. And the amazing thing is he did not own a rifle. That was known. I mean, he told me the most dangerous thing he had was his paring knife he cut his fruit with. And he opened the door. He's a Marine, just by the way. He's a decorated Marine who took guns away from Al-Qaeda. This guy moved landmines. He was a hero. And he asked what they were doing there. And they said, we've been reading your Facebook posts, and we're very, very concerned about your mental condition. And he was saying, are you crazy? Are you crazy? And they asked him to step out. They immediately arrested him. This is the cops dressed in SWAT team gear, government agents, Department of Homeland Security. They're all there getting this one guy without a gun, by the way. He owned no gun. And they threw him against a fence, slashed his back really bad, took him to the local police station in a small town in Virginia. And he asked for bandages on his back, but they put a prison shirt on, which stuck in the cracks. He said it hurt so bad. They didn't take care of him. He was put into a private prison cell where a psychiatrist was brought in who gave him a 5-minute examination, 5 minutes. And the big question came when Brandon Robb admitted he was a 9/11 truther. He said at that point, the psychiatrist said, I think you have a mental condition. You need to be committed. There was a short hearing after that, and he was automatically committed to a mental hospital. They're called civil commitments. And the amazing thing was his mother was crying and screaming. She called the ACLU and all these groups. Nobody wanted the case. When I heard about it, I got outraged. She called me. And we took the case, and we filed a lawsuit and got him out in a week. The judge ruled that he shouldn't have been there in the first place. It was crazy. But here's the thing about it. This fits in with all these things that we're going to be talking about. These civil commitments, when I did my research, 20,000 alone each year in Virginia. People disappear into mental institutions, 1.5 million annually. Now, think about that a second. They're going into big pharma, mental institutions. In fact, Brandon Robb called me the day before he was allowed out, and he said, John, there's a psychiatrist who says he's going to force meds on me here. This was the Marine talking to me. And I said, well, and the psychiatrist is listening on the phone. The psychiatrist said, was very quiet. And I said, well, you tell this psychiatrist you cannot force meds on anybody in Virginia without a court order, we're going to sue him, which we eventually did after the case was over. But the point is that Operation Vigilante, this is the government under this National Defense Authorization Act and things like this. I mean, who knows how many people, if it hadn't been for us, and we got the news out there and it went viral that this happened, but when I found out there were 1.5 million people a year disappearing into mental hospitals, I was shocked myself. But the point is the government is watching everything now, and I don't know how many, I haven't had any calls, I don't know, but I'm sure people are still disappearing. They have to, these civil commitments, which are very, very dangerous. The government has amassed its own super database called Main Core. They admit it. They have at least 8 million names on that of people who will be rounded up in times of crisis, which, again, what's a crisis? And there's a lot of crises that may be coming, and the government actually believes that. And I encourage people to go online. And I think we talked about last time we talked. The Pentagon put out several years ago a video called the 2030 video, where they're predicting that by 2030, the country's going to break down. They're going to impose martial law. It's very well done. It's only about 5 minutes long, but it is scary. It's a training video. So the government's getting ready for, I think, economic and social breakdown. I mean, economists are now predicting that 75,000 stores will close by 2026. There's so much homeless stuff going on in this country. So we have a country that's collapsing, in my opinion, economically, but also culturally. And so that's where these things come into, these dangerous laws that allows what I would call dictatorial governments, which we do have now, because they have the powers of a dictator, and they're ready if there's some rebels out there.
Well, and as you point out, that the definition of rebel or extremist could be twisted to fit anyone who has raised concerns about overreach by the government, or anybody who has brought up just reestablishing what are our constitutional rights, that kind of thing? I mean, yourself, myself included.
Owning a gun puts you on the extremist list. The Department of Homeland Security does threat assessments on every home in America. They go from green to red. If you own a gun of any kind, a hunting rifle, my father was a big hunter, etc., he would have been on that list. So we're living in a government that's very, very paranoid right now, and they're trained, they're getting ready. And the people, again, these things hit the news, but people are not keeping up with the news. ICE is building in Fort Benning, Georgia, at the cost of $1 million, listen to this, a simulated town with apartment buildings and stores and stuff where they're training to get ready to fight against the resistors, which would be American citizens, civilians or citizens, as we may want to call them. That's being built in Fort Benning, Georgia right now. They're training. They're getting ready. And so, again, we're paying for it. The government is taking our money, paying for that kind of stuff to oppress us. So what does that say about the government?
And, well, there's quite a flap that's been going on now for years about why all the government agencies, even ones that seem to have nothing to do with the military, have been purchasing extraordinary amounts of ammunition. You talked about this.
Hollow point bullets. 1.6 million, Department of Homeland Security had specially made for their agents, IRS, Social Security Administration. You're talking about IRS agents with hollow point bullets. And hollow point bullets are the same bullets that went through JFK's head and Martin Luther King. It's usually, government has those kind of bullets. They expand on contact. I'm a former infantry officer. When I was in the military, they were considered illegal because if you just hit somebody in the shoulder, they're going to go off. So you have 175,000 federal agents now armed to the teeth in SWAT team gear, ready to go. So what is the implication of that? We're already under martial law at this point in time. I mean, we can pretend we're not, but they're just waiting for supposedly people to get ready to resist. But unfortunately, as I see most Americans today, most Americans would rather sit on their butt and watch football games than think about freedom.
Well, we'll get back to what Americans can do as an alternative to sitting on their butts and watching football games at the end of the interview. But if we could circle back to a related question about another legal change or a ruling that shifted the landscape in terms of our rights and privileges. Anita A. asks, when do you think the American will finally see we have already been taken captive, the Republic lost, the Constitution no longer the law of the land, we have been stripped of all rights of the Patriot Act? Will they ever wake up and see this, or will they just go along with the lies they've been told, believing these things still exist?
Well, the Patriot Act was passed immediately in 1 month, or a little over a month, I think 60 days or less than that after 9/11. Over a 400-page piece of legislation. So obviously, I mean, the conspiracy theorists, if you want to call them that, say it was written before. I would agree with that. There's no way that was written. That was written before 9/11. So that was something that was in the plans, whether it had been a 9/11 or not. The Patriot Act allows the government total power to come into your home while you're not there, download everything from your computer, the FBI, walk out, search your home without a search warrant. They have national security letters now, NSLs, which allow them to go to the bank, FBI agents or other federal agents, and ask for your records. And this is it. Under the national security letter, the bank, your business cannot tell you they've been there. If they do, they can get prosecuted. So they're afraid. And so that's happening, obviously, any kind of so-called extremists today, they're getting your records wherever they go, library records, what books you check out, things like that. They want to see what you're thinking. I mean, if you want to read 1984, watch out, you're going to be put on a list. So that's what the Patriot Act allowed. But like I said, it was over 400 pages, and congressmen across the board they didn't even read it. They just voted yes because everybody was freaked out after 9/11. So that, coupled with the NDAA and other laws out there, the new HART agency that Trump's setting up, the Health Advanced Research Technology Agency, it's going to allow the government to read everything you're doing, your Fitbits, your apps, everything's going to be tracked to see what kind of emotions you are exhibiting so they can do pre-crime on you. I mean, everything that Philip K. Dick, Orwell, those guys wrote about, it's already here. It's way past the time, by the way. And that's the thing I try to tell people because, again, I'm a constitutional lawyer. I've been in the courts for 40 years on these issues, fighting the government. I've talked to numerous NSA people who come to me who are really concerned about what they're seeing. The things they tell me, it's just the government is watching everything you're doing. I mean, I bumped into an NSA guy once, and I told him who I was. He said, "Oh, I know you." He says, "We read your articles first. We read your website first thing every morning." I went, "Oh, I got fans," and he went, "Yeah." So, I mean, they're staying in the public schools now. The school personnel are reading what the kids are emailing at home at night, and kids are coming into school the next day and they're getting confronted. They might say the wrong word here or there. And so why do we have a population that cowers now? I mean, the kids are being taught that in the public schools to be cowards and back away and run away from government agents. And we've gone beyond, in my opinion, anything Hitler ever dreamed of. This would be Hitler's dream would be, wow, man, I wish I was the ruler at this time. But that's where we're at today. I mean, the government does not tell you it's doing these things until they're already done. Then they start leaking out that they're in the process of doing these things. But I mean, with the Real ID Act now, we're all by 2020 we all have to have real IDs, which means we have passports now in our own country. We're walking around with passports. So we're in a situation, in my opinion, that we're so far down the tunnel. And again, we can talk about what people can do, but and again, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. But just because I've been fighting this for 40 years, and sometimes I feel like the lone wolf out there howling, and the lone wolf is usually the person that's watched K's and eventually caught, and sometimes killed.
Before we leave Anita A's question entirely, her last part I hadn't gotten to. She said USMCA will be just another brick in the wall. Can you describe to us what that is?
It's a conglomerate of basically the laws that we're seeing here. In other words, what I'm saying is that with the NDAA, the Patriot Act, all the things that are happening now, with the government, all the powers they have, the algorithms, they're working with Facebook and Google, watching everything they're doing. We've gone beyond any kind of law. But, I mean, just recently, Zuckerberg was in the White House at 2 dinners with Trump. Most people don't realize that. I mean, they're meeting, they're watching and stuff, and all this stuff is culminating into one large total control. And that's what they want. They want total control of the people, and that's where we're headed in all this stuff.
Well, we've certainly participated and cooperated with that, even unwittingly in many cases. We're all carrying tracking devices on us now voluntarily, sometimes multiple wearables, and in addition to cell phones, that kind of thing. People have now got smart speakers and smart appliances all over their home that are monitoring their everything, and it's always for our convenience, right? And it's always something that we think is going to add options
and everything you're doing.
Yeah. So in the face of that, and the face of some of this legislation that's come along the way, usually in response to some kind of an ostensible crisis, what can an ordinary person do, or people united do, to restore a semblance of autonomy, privacy to our lives?
Well, you could say turn off the devices, but people are not going to do that. I mean, they're an addictive source of power for the government. Well, I'm trying to tell people, number one, get educated. The thing is, and let me explain this. If I say the history of humanity is basically tribes. People get in tribes. If you watch football games and people screaming on each side, people getting in fights at football games, which are make-believe, that's what the government wants. The government loves politics, and politics is just baloney. I mean, listen. The 2014 study by Princeton University along with Northwestern University concluded after 20 years of studying every policy passed in Washington, D.C., the professors came to the conclusion, and it's a great study, and I encourage people to read it. So you can go to our website and see where I've written on it. But they came to the conclusion that we're ruled by an oligarchy of money to lead of about 585 billionaires. 585 billionaires are running everything and watching everything and controlling everything. So if you think, I hear people say, best thing you can do is vote. I'm saying, no, that's the illusion of participation. what we need to do is get together in groups. First of all, educate yourself. A good place is websites like ours and others. Get educated. Education precedes action. Get community groups together. Go to your local government. And listen, there are 80,000 SWAT teams occurring across America annually, killing dogs, children, old folks. You can make those things stop. You can get rid of the military equipment in your local communities. But you have to get together in groups. The worst thing that politicians fear are organized groups with a strong leader. That's why Martin Luther King, people like that were greatly feared by the establishment, Hoover and Nixon. Anybody that has power, a John Lennon, for example, I mean, they tracked them, they watched them. 17,000 pages of information collected by the FBI on Martin Luther King in trying to attempt to destroy him. Same way with someone like John Lennon, who was an anti-war activist. And these are all detailed in my book, Battlefield America, by the way. So, get together, but you're going to have to understand one thing. You're occasionally going to get your head smacked. You might get arrested. You might get thrown in jail. All these things may happen to you, you know. But if you're afraid of that, if you're frightened by all that, you're not going to be able to do it. I mean, speaking out is not an easy thing to do. You don't make friends in America, a lot of friends, by speaking out against the government, because you consider an extremist today. But if you go back in history, it's the people who were the extremists that gave us the freedoms we have today. But we've caved them in. The one lady there at UT, she said, we've lost our republic. We have definitely lost our republic. It's controlled by a money elite, an oligarchy. They see us as a source of money. And that's another thing. Stop chipping in on the system. Grow your own fruit. There's a lot of things people can do. Grow your own vegetables. Push back. But see, we get cases like that where we defend a lot of people. Veterans who grow vegetable gardens, they're illegal in some places. They get arrested. We've actually defended people. We defended an old lady in Virginia who had 3 chickens in her backyard for her organic eggs. The cops arrived and arrested the chickens. But that's the point where people like us step in. The community should be outraged. Change the laws. You can do it locally. Washington, D.C., though, is a bedrock of corruption, and I'll put the word evil. And they're not going to do anything. I mean, I'll say it. Martin Luther King said he was going to shut Washington down, basically, and a month later he got a bullet in the head. So the thing is that they're going to fight back. They're not going to be easy. I mean, again, I see a lot of protest movements, the Wall Street stuff we saw 2 or 3 years ago, and then it just faded in a couple months because they started getting arrested. You got to figure that's a way of life if you're going to be a lone wolf.
What about your local sheriff? Don't they have the constitutional mandate and actually the power to stand up for their local communities and for the people?
Yeah, some now are saying they're going to deputize citizens, which I think is a neat idea. I don't think you're going to see that across the country, but do I think it's a bad thing? No, I think it's good that some of the local policemen are starting to stand up and say this is wrong. For example, the red flag gun laws, where they can just report you, and that Mr. Kaiser, he's a weirdo, and he needs his gun. They'll come and get it, and you might get taken to a mental hospital these days under civil commitments. Like I said, 1.5 million Americans disappear in them every year.
That statistic is staggering. Do we have any way of understanding, when you say disappear into them, how many of these were actually medical cases versus how many of these might not be medical in nature? You cannot find out unless you got the client or the relative. I mean, it's hidden. But when we were in that case, with the Brandon Robb case, I had a reporter from Los Angeles call me, and she said, John, you'll be shocked. There's 80,000, she said, annually in the L.A. area alone that get rounded up. She called me. She worked for one of the big newspapers out there, and she said, this is true. It's really happening. So, but you're not going to see this on CNN or Fox. They don't talk about that. They're too busy talking about something Donald Trump's tweeting about. John, if people want to follow your work and other than the NSA want to follow your work, how can they stay plugged in and keep up with your latest research? You can go to Rutherford.org, Rutherford.org. We have a nice website with a lot of information. We're trying to help people get a constitutional section. Most Americans have no idea what the Constitution says because it's not taught well in the schools these days, and there's a reason for that. But I would say, get up to date on our website and learn what you can do. We're grateful for your presence here. We're going to have you back on because there were like so many more questions that we didn't get a chance to talk to address. But we really appreciate you breaking these open for us, and it certainly sobers the tone of the conversation to realize how serious things have already become and how important it is for those of us who want to have freedom and privacy for our children and grandchildren to take action now. We've been speaking with John Whitehead, the founder of the Rutherford Institute at rutherford.org. John, thanks for joining us again here on Finance and Liberty.
Thank you, sir.
Bonus footage from other guests we've had on. Come on over right now to patreon.com/reluctantpreppers and access that bonus footage there. Take care. They say the stock market crashed today.
Yeah, I heard that.
Sounds like people's retirement accounts and savings accounts are going to get bailed into the banks.
Yeah.
Looks like pension plans and Social Security are going to get suspended too.
I know.
Sure, I'm glad we decided to put our money into gold and silver instead.
Me too.
Get your gold and silver and support this channel at goldsilver.com/?AFF=RP.
It seems so hard to order. Who can I trust and how do I even start?
Oh, you just go to sdbullion.com/RP, pick out whatever gold or silver you want, add it to your cart, you can check out, and it's on its way. And they're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau.
Wow, it's that easy?
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP.
After I order gold or silver, how can I trust I'm going to get it? And I don't want everybody to know that I'm ordering gold and silver.
Oh, it's okay. It's fully insured, it's trackable, and you have to sign for it, so nobody else is going to get it but you. And it comes discreetly packaged. If you order a small amount, like maybe gold, it'll probably come in a box that looks something like this.
Okay.
And if you order a large amount, maybe like silver, it'll come in a box that looks something like this.
Wow.
But it doesn't say gold or silver on there. It might say something industrial or something else like that, but nobody's going to know what you ordered.
Oh, that's great to know.
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP.
If I own gold or silver, how will I ever be able to spend it?
Oh, sure. Well, consider good times or bad times. Like in good times, you can sell it back to the same place you bought it from. sdbullion.com/RP will buy it back at the best price guaranteed on the internet. You can take it to a local coin shop and get cash in your hand, completely anonymous. Some people you know may be willing to take gold or silver coins in exchange for goods or services. Now, in bad times, when things have really fallen apart, time after time in history, people have found that in hard times, gold and silver really does come through as something that people recognize as value even after everything else has failed. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP.
What if gold or silver drop in price after I order it?
Well, everything fluctuates with time, but nothing has held up longer and better than gold and silver throughout all the changes that have happened in history. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP.
What good does gold do me anyway? I can't use it for anything.
Well, I think I found a form you might appreciate.
Wow. That's beautiful. Wow, I can wear that just about anywhere.
And you can take it with you through airport security and across borders. It's small and compact and lightweight, and you can even hand it down through generations. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP. Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions.